Hey everyone, and welcome back to the SCREENY. South Park has continued to push the envelope for over 20 years. That's why we love it so much. It's a loud, brash, and side-splittingly funny show that pokes fun at taboo topics. But despite being notoriously out there, the series has been worryingly right about some stuff. Join us as we take a look at 8 times South Park totally predicted the future. But before we begin, do us a favor by clicking that like button, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a video on your favorite TV shows. Columbus Day and Cat in the Hat.
Let's take this thing down! Yeah! Yeah! Take it down! Columbus was a mass murderer!
Yeah, it sounds nuts, but what do you expect here? This is South Park we're talking about, not the Waltons. Back in season 21, the episode Holiday Special follows the character Randy Marsh as he tried to boycott Columbus Day. He was doing pretty well, until someone dug up old pictures of him dressed as Christopher Columbus. Needless to say, people were peeved. Just a few days after the episode was released in 2017, First Lady Melania Trump tried to donate a bunch of Dr. Seuss books to a school in Massachusetts. However, the librarian there didn't want to take them. In her eyes, she said the books were racist. Okay, fine, sure, people can interpret things however they want, right? However, Twitter users soon started looking into the librarian in question. It didn't take long for them to find pictures of her dressed in, you guessed it, a Cat in the Hat costume. Isn't that nuts how closely these things are related? You wouldn't think that something so eerily similar would happen in that short a space of time. But it looks like that we live in a world full of hypocrisy. Maybe it's not that weird after all. The flag fiasco.
I find that flag to be racist and insensitive.
But you have to understand that this has been the South Park flag since some of our ancestors founded this land.
Back in October of 2017, the state of Mississippi found themselves up in court over their flag. The state was the last one to use the Confederate symbol, and they weren't willing to give it up, despite protests. They argued that it didn't violate anyone's civil rights and should be left as it is. Cast your mind back 17 years prior, if you were alive then, and you might remember something similar happening in a season 4 episode. Chef goes head-to-head with Uncle Jimbo over the picture of the town's flag. In true South Park fashion, the symbol was undeniably racist and wouldn't ever appear on a flag in real life. While most people use star and stripes, South Park's flag was a picture of a black man being lynched by a bunch of white men. The situation divides the town, but eventually everyone comes to a compromise. For full comedic value, the compromise sees the lynching still happen, but this time the people that are doing it are of different ethnicities. As if that's any better! Still, just goes to show that the writers clearly had their heads screwed on when they wrote this one. That's an epic prediction, even if it did take almost 2 decades to come true. Spooky suspension.
What scares rich people more than anything?
Ghosts?
Bingo. Rich people won't want to live in South Park if they think it's haunted.
Yeah!
Everyone get some sheets from home.
South Park prides itself on being able to poke fun at sensitive subjects, so it's not surprising that race issues are often featured on the show. In one season 5 episodes that first aired in 2001, South Park unexpectedly becomes a popular destination for the rich and famous. Great, you might think. That's a good old boost for the cartoon economy. Sadly, the residents weren't happy about the town's newfound popularity and decided to drive away the newcomers by dressing up as ghosts. Clearly, they didn't take a good look at themselves in the mirror, as what they really looked like were the Ku Klux Klan. Incidentally, all the new people in the town were black, so the trick worked. Just not for the right reasons. Fast forward 15 years later, and a group of cadets at the Citadel Military College in South Carolina did something equally stupid. After pictures of the cadets wearing white pillowcases over their heads made their way onto social media, they were swiftly suspended. It was a simple joke, they argued. They weren't trying to be like the Ku Klux Klan, but simply pretending to be ghosts of Christmas past. Apparently, no one in the room thought that the pillowcases looked a little suspect. So, these guys are either incredibly naive or just really bad liars. Either way, these are the people we trust with defending our country, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that a little terrifying. Miley's career moves.
Hannah Montana's Miley Cyrus, though only 15 years old, is already on her way to being a major superstar.
It's hard to think about Miley Cyrus as a kid, isn't it? She was so innocent, wearing wigs on the Hannah Montana show and being a true PG Disney queen. When Miley started unveiling a very different aesthetic a few years ago, people were shocked to see just how far she'd come. From the corporate good girl to the half-naked siren we saw swinging on a wrecking ball, it was a huge change. In 2008, one season 12 episode aired called Britney's New Look, which focused on the now infamous breakdown of Britney Spears. Spears was going through a really difficult time when she shaved her head, but she was given the South Park treatment nonetheless. The episode sees Spears pushed to the brink of suicide as a part of a ritual to produce a good corn harvest. After Spears bites the dust, a reporter focuses on Miley Cyrus, saying that she's becoming the next big pop star, so may well be the one to fulfill the next sacrifice. Thankfully, Miley hasn't ever been exchanged for some good corn in real life, but she did reach the new heights of fame in the years that followed. Now, she's one of the biggest names on the planet, not only because of her music, but because of her personality. Remember that time she called Sinead O'Connor nuts? Not her finest moments, that's for sure. Osama bin Laden's fate.
Haka haka, daka daka! Cut!
It's incredible what this show can get away with when you really think about it. It pushes the boundaries further than boundaries should be pushed, but it still works. Even when it calls an episode, Osama bin Laden has farty pants. This episode was the first to air after the tragic September 11th attacks. While most shows decided to veto anything terror-related, Matt Stone and Trey Parker tackled the subject with no fear whatsoever. Some may think that it was ill-advised, but for a lot of people, comedy was really needed. The plot follows the gang as they end up in Afghanistan. Cartman being Cartman, he manages to get himself into trouble and somehow finds himself in the company of the world's most wanted man at the time, Bin Laden. The two end up in a fight that's plain ridiculous. It ends up with Cartman dressing Bin Laden in an Uncle Sam costume as he holds a stick of dynamite. His followers get confused and turn their guns upon their leader, shooting him as they think he's an American. Sure, a lot of this didn't happen, but Bin Laden really was taken out on May 2nd, 2011. Considering how savagely he was hunted after the September 11th attacks, it wouldn't have taken a genius to predict his demise. However, predict it they did, even if it was an easy task. Mel Gibson's controversial antics.
You want to get out of here? Talk to me.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Mel Gibson is f***ing crazy, dude!
It's hard to believe it now, but there was a time when Mel Gibson was the toast of Hollywood. He starred in a slew of successes from Braveheart to Signs. Let's not forget when he directed The Passion of Christ either. The film was a huge hit. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for Mel Gibson's star to come crashing down. In 2006, he was arrested for drink driving, but he didn't take it like a champ. Instead, he hurled a ton of anti-Semitic abuse at the officer. After that, Gibson was a toast alright, but not in the good way. Over the years that followed, Mel's career never recovered, thanks in part to some weird interviews. Oh, and you remember that tape his former lover released of him saying some god-awful things to her. 2 years before the DUI arrest happened, Stone and Parker decided to capitalize on the success of The Passion of Christ and work on an episode around it. Kyle goes to see the movie but thinks it's offensive, so he asks Gibson for his money back. Gibson refuses and ends up doing all sorts of weird and crazy things like playing with his poop and dancing around naked while being an anti-Semite. Did the writers have some sort of inside information that the rest of the world didn't know about? Salty balls and gay cowboys.
That sucked ass too. Nah, dude, independent films are those black and white hippie movies. They're always about gay cowboys eating pudding.
No, they're not.
Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal changed the face of cinema when they starred in 2005's Brokeback Mountain. Both actors gave incredible performances, but it's also one of the most parodied films out there. Years before the movie was conceived, Chef was serving up his salty chocolate balls to the residents of South Park. In one 1998 episode, the gang go to the Sundance Film Festival and catch a few movies. Interestingly, at one point, Cartman says that all indie movies are about gay cowboys eating pudding. Matt Stone and Trey Parker were asked outright about this similarity by the Associated Press. Their response was perfect. "We're not prophets, but Cartman is," they said. The creators laughed, saying that they attended Sundance a lot in the mid-90s and just figured out that movies were heading in that direction. It looked like these two are just super observant then, because the rest of us had no idea. Trump's Twitter terror.
The President of the United States just tweeted again. This time saying, "Go ahead and bomb us, Kim Jong-dong. We f***ing dare you."
One of the defining things about President Trump is that he runs his own Twitter account. Past presidents have given up their social media channels to be managed by professionals who know what and when to say things. However, Trump has no qualms about calling people stupid or inciting war. We've seen it time and time again. In September of 2017, a season 21 South Park episode saw President Garrison call out Kim Jong-un via Twitter. Just 2 days later, the real-life President of the United States did the exact same thing, calling the North Korean leader a madman who doesn't mind starving or killing his people. Was Trump inspired by the episode? It's unlikely, as we assume he's got better things to do than watch cartoons. When the president starts acting like a satirical cartoon character, you know you're in trouble. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos on your favorite TV shows and tap one of the 2 videos on screen for another amazing video.